Hiya, this is Contemporary Southern Video 1. If you remember, when we learned about General Southern, I commented that you'll hear this dialect spoken less frequently in the South than it was spoken 50 years ago. What it's being replaced by is what I'm going to call Contemporary Southern. Think of Contemporary Southern dialect as a general Southern dialect where all of the R forms have been added back in. In that sense, it's about halfway between General Southern and General American. The resonance of the dialect is closer to General Southern than it is to Mountain. So there's a nice open sound in Contemporary Southern. The melody of General Southern employs a drawl as opposed to a twang. In other words, these speakers will go from pitch to pitch, skipping intervening pitches, especially in targets, much like a General Southern speaker will, as opposed to a twang where you go from pitch to pitch and skip the intervening pitches, as a Mountain speaker does. Let's do a little bit of counting and see if we can illustrate the difference between General Southern, Contemporary Southern, and Mountain. So from 1 to 10 in General Southern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now let's count from 1 to 10 in Contemporary Southern. What you're going to hear is that I'm still doing some down gliding, but I'm adding R sounds back in where they occur. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now Mountain from 1 to 10. You'll hear a clear shift in resonance here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Since the R forms are pivotal to this dialect, let's start on page 4 and talk about R forms. Stressed ers in Contemporary Southern, we're going to keep the sound, and it's going to sound like a General American These words sound like this: early, earn, earnest, earth, dirt, purses, word, nurses, purchase, furnace, person, her, blur, were, prefer. Number 2, final ERs. We're going to keep the R coloration in the unstressed Brother, further, father, murder. Number 3, a consonant R in the middle of a word where the R sound is followed by another consonant. We're going to keep the R sound. It's going to be much like a General American R. These words sound like this: ark, yard, start, cart, yarn, scarce, marshal, marble, bar, car, distortion, darling. Number 4, words that end with a final R, we're going to keep the final consonant R. Floor, door, more, there, bear, stare, beer, steer, career. Page 5. We're going to skip number 5 on page 5. So let's go back to the R forms on page 4. Let's do these 3 ways. General Southern with an R drop. Contemporary Southern with the R coloration added back in. And then Mountain with the R coloration retained and hardened. Number 1. Early, early, early. Earn, earn, earn. Dirt, dirt, dirt. word, word, word. Her, her, her. Prefer, prefer, prefer. Number 2, brother, brother, brother. Father, father, father. Murder, murder, murder. Number 3, ark, ark, ark. Yard, yard, yard. Scarce, scarce, scarce. Marshal, marshal, marshal. Distortion, distortion, distortion. Darling, darling, darling. Number 4, floor, floor, flower. Door, door, door. There, there, there. Bear, bear, bear. Beer, beer, beer. Career, career, career. I hope you can hear the difference between a general Southern dropped R, whether it's a consonant R or a vowel a contemporary Southern, where those R colorations are put back in, much in the same way that we do in general American speech, and mountain, where the R sounds are retained, but they are hardened. Let's go back to page 1 and go through the handout for contemporary Southern. Number 1, A, the I reversal. You will still hear this for contemporary Southern speakers. Sounds like this. Any, end, general, pin, inner, Tennessee, 20, win. Let's do a couple of these words 2 ways. Standard American contemporary Southern I. Any, any. End, end. General, general. Enter, inner. Tennessee, Tennessee. 20, 20. 1B, a contemporary Southern speaker can take an S sound and go to an lengthened with a schwa off glide. This is the same sound change we did for general Southern. It makes these words sound like this. Mellow, melt, sell, shell, jelly. Sometimes they will simply lengthen the S sound and you won't hear a schwa off glide. Ebb, bed, deck, met, west. You probably won't hear a contemporary Southern speaker go to the stronger sound change. Number 2, most contemporary Southern speakers will still use the intermediate A as a replacement for the I diphthong. These words would sound like this. Right, sight, mind, island, time. What time is it? Fine, my, lifelike. Let's do a couple of these words 2 ways. General American I, and then the intermediate A for contemporary Southern. Right, right. Might, might. Mind, mind. Island, island. Time, time. Number 3. We're going to skip number 3. I think that most contemporary Southern speakers pretty much leave the butterfly sounds alone. Number 4, a backward C. We're going to do what we did for general Southern. A backward C, a little bit more length, and maybe a schwa off glide. Maybe some soft lip rounding on the end, but no tension in the lips. These words will sound like this. Dog. This is a good dog. Hog. Law. Bought. Fought. Paw. coffee, soft, draw, alter. Let's go to page 2. Number 5. We're going to leave number 5 alone. There's no change in the A sound for a contemporary Southern speaker. Similarly, we're going to skip number 6. There's no change. Let's go to number 7 and talk about what can happen with the I sounds. In 7A, you will hear a contemporary Southern speaker use an I with a schwa off glide in certain words like this. Live, live. Spit, spit. Busy, busy. So the same sound change we did for General Southern. You may also hear a contemporary Southern speaker with an ing word raise the vowel in their mouths a little bit closer to an E sound. So these words can sound like this. Ring, rink, link, finger. Put that ring on your finger. 7B, the I going to an I probably would not do it. I would leave those is alone for a more contemporary sound. So you'd hear sang, stang. If anything, the I gets a little higher in your mouth, but I probably wouldn't go to sang, strang, wang. Just leave it alone. Same thing for 7C. I probably would leave those words alone and not take those is to as well. Let's go to page 3. O sounds in 8A. I pretty much would leave them alone, as in General American. In other words, you don't need to go for the diphthong sound that we did in General Southern. You don't need to take soldier to soldier. You can leave it alone. So these words will sound like this in contemporary Southern. Soldier, moan, broke, lowly, slowly, hotel, groping, sober, toasting. 8B. I probably wouldn't consistently take a final O sound to an In other words, I wouldn't say winda, shada, fella, widda. Now, you might mix it up a little bit. I can imagine F-E-L-L-O-W being pronounced as fella. But window, I'd leave the O. So look at that fella by the window. I think is more contemporary Southern, as opposed to look at that fella by the window, which is more general Southern. Or look at that feller by the winder with an on the ends of those words, which is distinctly mountain. So with 8B, occasionally you can take the final O to an if it feels natural, but more often than not, I would leave the final O diphthong alone. Diphthongal changes. The oi sound, we're going to do the same thing we did in General Southern. These words sound like this. Boy, boil, tall, boiler, noise, hoiden, joiner. If anything, in a more contemporary Southern dialect, you will hear less of this sound change. In other words, you could leave the oi alone and not cut off the final element of it. So you could say boy, boil, toil, boiler, instead of boy, ball, tall, boiler. Number 2, the ow sound collapses a little bit in contemporary Southern. Proud, hour, now, found, loud, cloud, power. I can also imagine a contemporary Southern speaker not making any change in this sound and saying proud, hour, now, found, loud. Do you hear the difference? I hope you do. We're going to leave it there, and this is the end of Contemporary Southern Video 1.